everybody, welcome to another episode of Insurance with Infiniti. My name is Infiniti Whitley, aka 5-6 in Finance. I'm a life insurance broker in the states of Missouri and Michigan. See my credentials back there. Anyway, today I am here with a topic that it lights a fire under me, right? Because I take my job seriously. I have always enjoyed the aspect of helping other people and making sure that, they have what they need, whether that was from my years teaching or volunteering to now, my years in being a caretaker, you name it. I like to help people. I like to make sure that they're set in whatever it is that they're aiming to do at that moment. And so as it pertains to life insurance in this industry, what I care most about is that my clients are covered, they are secure, and their families are covered and secure. So, when life happens, it doesn't have to take them by storm. What I want to talk about today, and I might be a little attitudinal about it because it happens so much, it's so prevalent this time of year, around the holidays, little post-holiday activity going on. People get turned around and confused. We are all busy during this time of year. If it's before the holiday, we are traveling, we are making preparations to travel, we're getting through those extra long hours at work, pulling overtime, seeing the family, again, traveling, you name it. And then after the holiday, that's when we're winding all down and we're getting back into the mode of normal society. And it's a surreal blur, okay, to normal people. I don't know about y'all, but I think I'm kind of a normal person. So this time of year, sometimes I do stuff, and while I try to stay organized and I have folders and files and spreadsheets and whatever, some people might not be that organized. Hey, it be like that sometimes. But what I really loathe about this time of year as a life insurance agent is that when I have a client and maybe they weren't the healthiest, but I was able to find them coverage that they could afford and would protect them, level coverage, immediate level death benefit, that kind of thing. What I hate is when, how do I want to word that? You have people that are into insurance that aren't in it for the right reasons, right? And so, a lot of stuff these days is public information, and so you get these mailers in the mail and it can get confusing after a while, right? So case in point, I'm going to use my dear sweet elderly client as an example here. He called me one evening, it was like 8 o'clock at night my time, and I'm like, hey, how are you doing, Mr. So-and-so? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. I got a notice in the mail from, and he was like, I got this notice in the mail from some so-and-so insurance company, and they said that my coverage could be at risk and blah, 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 blah. And I'm paraphrasing, right? So, and I sat there and I listened. I'm like, okay, I got you, Mr. So-and-so. And so, as he continued to explain this to me, what it is that insurance companies are going to solicit to their jurisdictions, and that's good and fine. But when you already have coverage put in place, you don't want to mess it up, because again, as I always tell people, you are never any younger or any healthier than the very moment that you are sitting down with your agent and putting in for that life insurance. And so him being, in his 60s, and he's actually really healthy. So, he had a great outstanding premium for his age group. Didn't need to bother, but so-and-so is trying to solicit him for a lower rate, and I'm like, you know what, give me a moment, let me kind of look into that, do some research for you. And as it were, he was not going to get the same amount of coverage that he had with me at the same rate with this other company, because it had been months later. And so sometimes agents fall prey to having their policies that they've written recently replaced, because people kind of forget what they've done in the hubbub of life, basically. And so here are some things that I want to put out there that will help protect you as a client if you're watching from the consumer side, and potentially some things that will protect you as the agent if you are an agent out there watching my content. So as the consumer, well, no, let me scratch that. As the agent, right? When you sit with the client and you've built this rapport and, you know, you're closing the policy with them, here are some things that you need to tell them when you are ending that conversation, right? Because, again, my IMO, we do things through telesales, so I rarely sit with people face-to-face to do insurance policies. But I tell them, okay, take my name, take my number, and I have them write it out in their calendar or on something important, right? And I have them write down the policy number and the carrier, and I give them my license number. So if I'm writing business in Missouri, I'm giving them my Missouri number. If I'm writing in Michigan, I'm giving them my Michigan number. And I tell them, hey, if anybody calls you and says, hey, I got an insurance policy to sell you. It never sounds like that. But if somebody ever calls you trying to sell you insurance, you get their name, their number, their their insurance license number, and you call me. So, you know, as to make sure that. And so as the consumer, if you do get a random call about life insurance or mortgage protection life insurance, whole nother boat, yeah, you have every right to ask that agent for their name and their insurance license number. And if they don't want to give you their insurance license number, then you hang up, right? Because a lot of times, and especially amongst the elderly clients that I do have, you know, they are honestly more susceptible to being scammed. And so to me, that license number, it links back to your home address, right? Your phone number, your full name, your birthday, some really vital private information that you just don't generally want to give out to people, right? And so for us as agents, it builds a link of trust between you and that client that says, hey, I've written your life insurance policy, you know where I live now, and you can report me, right? And so if an agent is unwilling, at least in my purview, if an agent is unwilling to give you their license number, but they want to sell you a policy, that kind of sends up red flags to me, right? And that's not something that your average everyday consumer would think about, because most people don't know about the insurance industry. I really didn't until I got into it. But knowing what I know now, I know that these are some questions that I can ask to safeguard myself as well as my clients. So if you have an agent that you've spoken with and you have all their information and details, you need to call them, ask them about whatever, you know, don't just immediately call into the notice. Maybe you call your local agent that you already have, or if you don't have an agent, I mean, you can call in on the notices, but it's like a 50-50 chance. But again, if those agents are not willing to give you that license number, that should send up a little red flag for you. Another thing that I tell my clients, because I deal more so in mortgage protection life insurance, once I've set up a policy for them, I say, hey, if you receive any more mortgage protection notices or phone calls and somebody tries to reel you in, you call me and I'll research, I'll handle it. You know, we are settled into this, especially with my more sickly clients. I had an instance where a lady, she was really, really unhealthy, and, you know, I guess, you know, life took its toll, whatever. And her premium was, what, $130 or something a month, but some other so-and-so insurance company called her, and, you know, again, getting lost in the hubbub of things, she was like, oh, this sounds great, and I'm saving maybe $30 on my policy. Well, okay, the policy that she had, I think, was a graded one, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's been a while. And it was the absolute best deal for her because it gave her enough coverage to ensure that her family was good in that house for a little over a year if she were to pass away. And the agent that came behind and tried to replace the policy that she, you know, spoke with, they got her some kind of weird coverage that was, like I said, $30 less, and it covered less, right? And so that's kind of a rule of thumb in the industry. If it doesn't cost much, it doesn't cover much. But she was looking at it, it's like, okay, it's kind of similar, quote unquote, coverage. But the thing that set off red flags to me was that it was a level coverage. Great. It was a level coverage when clearly, like, all the carriers that I write for, they were like, this is graded, this is modified. And so that sent up red flags. And so I did some digging and some investigation, and 9 times out of 10, that new policy that was written for her, it was done incorrectly. And so that burns me up, because that is a disservice to the families that you speak to. It is a disservice to your reputation if you're an agent writing policies like that. And it's a disservice to the name of your company, right? Because a lot of times these people, you know, they come from smaller IMOs or whatever, and that does not make the company look good. And it doesn't make you sound good. And really all it does is get you a chargeback, and it gets your policies canceled, right? Because if something would have happened to this sickly old lady, that policy wasn't going to pay out to her family, right? Because insurance companies, when somebody passes away, they will look back at the contestability, what's called contestability period, and if they see that they were sickly during this time period and it does not fit within the framework of a of a level policy, they're not going to pay out because it's within that time frame. And so what bro did was really skeezy and really crappy as a insurance agent, you know. And so my thing is, as a broker, as an agent, don't do those kinds of things, because it makes the rest of us look sketchy when we're just trying to do our jobs and protect other people. And last but not least, here, right, I'm going to try to get this one to be shorter today, but last but not least, the number one thing that you can do as a client or a consumer of life insurance is to know what you are covered by, right? Ever so often, you know, a lot of people will sit down once a year. I don't care if it's once a year or if you do it every quarter. You need to review your life insurance to know, well, not just your life insurance, but all your insurance, but specifically today, for today's purposes, life insurance, to know what you're covered by, what type of policy it is, whether it's term or whole life, you know, what it was meant to cover initially, if you have a note on that in the file. Know what you have so you know what you don't need, right? Because there are definitely times, especially in mortgage protection, there are definitely times where, hey, you know what, somebody already has a certain amount of coverage, but it's not enough to cover their needs. So they do technically need extra coverage to make sure that they're set and good to go and that their assets are covered and all that. On the flip side, there are people that are sufficiently covered, and they know they're sufficiently covered because they go through their paperwork, they go through their insurance that they have with their job, like they are on top of their paperwork. And I'm not saying that you have to be super meticulous about that, but just know in the back of your mind at some point that, hey, I know I got XYZ covered, and I don't need anybody else selling me XYZ coverage with glitter on it, right? So that's my little soapbox for today. I hope this was informational. I hope it was cohesive for you guys. I'm going to go talk to some more wonderful people today. I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.